January is Minnesota's coldest month on average, and throughout our history, we've had to find ways to stay warm. We leave you with a closer look at how quilting gets families through harsh winters and gives artists another outlet. I'm Joe Nelson. We'll see you next month. Trish Polnasic and her daughter Teresa of Andover found a needle and thread following a similar pattern.
I started sewing it at about 8, 9 years old for my mom.
I started sewing when I was probably 8 or 9. My grandma taught me how to sew.
The family tradition started with Trisha's mother, Jean Anderson.
She's totally self-taught. She, started looking at books and different things, and I'm not sure if she's ever even took a class. She just started quilting, and so then we've just kind of continued on doing that.
Trish says a passion for quilting keeps her family close-knit.
I like the togetherness of it because even though we're far apart, I have a daughter who lives in Georgia and a daughter who lives in Duluth. We all share the same passion for sewing, and we enjoy getting together and sewing, and we'll send pictures back and forth.
She makes quilts as gifts personalized by design.
And then my son is really into music, and he's doing live audio technology at Hutchinson, and so his quilt, this is his Christmas gift, is has guitars and stuff on it, so it's a themed thing for him.
For Teresa, it's not just warmth but winning that pushes her to produce prized patchworks.
My quilt this year actually won the first place at the Minnesota State Fair in the 4-H building. It's really fun because it was on display for a couple days, and so I would go and I would sneak up behind people and listen to what they would say about my quilts because they have no idea who made it.
She says there's a science to what she sews.
And the most of the quilts that I make now, I design myself. And so I use Excel or gridded paper to draw out. It's a lot of math, but it's really fun because then you get to make your own, and it's not something that someone else lays out for you like a pattern.
There's always new tools on the market for you to try, and new rulers and new gadgets and new patterns and stuff that you can always find something to challenge yourself to.
Anoka County Historical Society Program Manager Vicki Wendell says quilting wasn't always so precise.
We certainly didn't have in the past all the fancy tools to make sure we have everything perfectly square, but women would cut templates out of cardboard, and they would still cut templates the same way that women cut quilt pieces out of templates today. Quilters today are very hung up on making sure that every little point is exactly where it's supposed to be, and you don't cut that little point off on any triangle. Quilters of the past obviously were not that concerned about it.
She says quilts cover a large part of American history.
Quilting fabric has been done for hundreds and hundreds of years. In this country, it didn't get really rolling until about the 1840s and after, because prior to that, we didn't have fabric that was manufactured in this country. Everything had to be imported. Quilts were something that people did as a hobby, as a pastime, as a social event, as a necessity.
A collection of antique quilts has materialized over the years.
This is the Crazy Quilt that was done in 1884. This one was made as a signature quilt, and you can just see the little fine writing in the center of the album blocks there.
Wendell says people of all social classes made quilts which varied by the fabric they used.
If you were really poor, it was a necessity. If you were wealthy, maybe you did the fancy quilts of the 1880s.
It can be an expensive hobby.
Depends upon how deep you want to go, because I think my husband would say it is extremely expensive. But we watch for sales and stuff.
With a passion and patience, Teresa is hoping the time, money, and effort spent could soon pay off in new fashions.
I really want to design quilts and have my own design quilt company. I especially want to design fabric, and so I can have my own fabric line and then create different tools that I can use with them. Quilting is really important because it is a type of art, and everyone makes art every day. And so it's just my type of art, and I think that quilting is special in that you can use it every day, and you can paint a picture and put it on your wall, but you could use a quilt and you sleep with it every night, and you can remember how long it took you to make it, or how long it took for your grandma to make it for you, and how much work they put into it and how much they love you for it.
Oh, but quilts tell stories. Every quilt has a story, and many, many quilters, even of the past, left clues in their quilts of who they were, or why it was made, when it was made, where. Some of those clues are there. Some of the things you can find out in the patterns.
I get to remember my grandma quilting, and then I get to show her my quilts, and we like compare our quilts together, and it's really fun because it's just like all of us together.
A story can warm your heart as much as warming your toes with a quilt. So a quilt is a fragile piece because it's textile, so you do need to have a good amount of care with it. But many times quilts are heirlooms and they're passed on. So when you have that quilt, you're holding a part of your own family heritage.
You have that thing that somebody made for you to remember how much that they cared for you and that they love you, and that you're really not alone, even though you may be physically alone at that point because, you know, they're so far away. It's allowed a part of yourself to always be there